This is probably like my fifth time trying to record this video, but I am confident that it's going to happen this time. Welcome to my channel. My name is Gisele. You can call me Gigi. And today I just want to have an open conversation about alcohol consumption, the fact that I have been alcohol free for almost 15 months now, and going strong. And I noticed four main benefits of going alcohol free that I would like to share with you today. Just to make sure that we spend our time nicely together, I'm going to divide this video in four different parts. The first part, I'm going to talk a little bit about my relationship with alcohol throughout my life. The second, what made me decide go alcohol free. The third part, I'm going to talk about the four main benefits. And in the final one, I just would like to have like a final discussion and an open conversation with you guys. So hopefully you stay with me until the end. I have my notes here, so excuse me if I refer to them, but just so I can organize my thoughts. So my relationship with alcohol, this is a really interesting one because I did grow up with an alcoholic father, which that experience had tremendous impact on me as a child. My father, fortunately, has been sober now for more than 20 years. I'm really proud of him. But it's interesting because I think he went sober when I was like 15. And that was more or less when I was starting to drink. So even though I had a not so good experience with him, being an alcoholic growing up, that didn't impact necessarily my decision on having alcohol myself. Now, during my teenage years, I was battling depression, so I wasn't being as social, and I wouldn't drink at home, so I wasn't drinking as much. However, when I turned, I think like 24 or maybe 25 years old, my depression greatly subsided, and that was when I started being more social and doing more like young people type of stuff. A little bit later, I was already about to graduate in college, but that was when I was starting to flourish. And that was when I started to drink more frequently because I was going out more, I was going to bars, I was dating, I was just having these mundane young life, maybe for the first time, I guess. And that was when I started drinking. And that was a really interesting, I have, I think, different phases. I had phases of drinking maybe every other weekend. I had phases of drinking every weekend. I had even phases of drinking every day for various reasons. And I'm going to go into that a little bit later in this video. But I never really felt that I didn't have control over my drinking. And I didn't, I guess because I was younger, I also didn't feel that it had like a great impact on my life. That, however, greatly changed in my 30s. And more specifically, when I was 33 years old, I moved to the US, I moved to the US, to the United States to get my master's degree. I was in an MBA program. And in an MBA program, socialization and networking is one of our main priorities. And like we would have like even the school would organize these social gatherings every Thursday. We would have free beer, free hard seltzers, free wine, and the drinking kind of started for us on Thursday. And then because we lived in a small city and we all moved there to go to grad school, we would spend a lot of time with our friends and classmates. So like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we had social gatherings. I organized a bunch of them myself. And for very sure, in each of those gatherings, we were having a lot to drink. And that was when my body really started to feel, the bad impact of alcohol, but not only my body, but also my mind. And business school was really intense for me, not only because of school itself, but because other things that were happening in my personal life. So the negative impact on my mental health was really great. I vividly remember discussing this with my therapist at the time. and he suggested me, like, you need to decrease your alcohol consumption because this is obviously impacting you in a negative way. And I did. So I was drinking maybe twice a month, but still, is still too much for me. So things started to change after graduation because that was when I had some time to breathe. I had more time to take care of myself. I was eating really well, going to the gym, juicing a lot, and I greatly reduced my alcohol intake. Actually, at some point, I completely stopped. But things really completely changed, and this was like a major turning point when I spent some time in a Buddhist monastery. And I know that you didn't see that coming. I can safely say that I didn't either because that was never in my plans. However, at the time, I was already in a very, profound transition state in my life. I was moving from New York to Los Angeles. I didn't know many people there. I wasn't ready. I wasn't prepared. And a friend of mine, and I was, started to establish a meditation practice, like not a meditation habit actually, every single day. And a friend of mine suggested me this place, and she was like, you can go, you can spend some time with the nuns, cook for them, and you're going to meditate with them every day. And I think this is going to be good for your mental health. And it was. And I spent almost a month with them. And while you were there, you are invited, or more like required, to keep 5 Buddhist presets. And one of the presets is you cannot have alcohol or any type of drug or anything that alter your state of mind, like your consciousness, that affects your consciousness. But this is for the duration, like while you were there, right? Like you don't, matter of fact, before you leave, there is like this ceremony in which you release the presets you do not intend to keep. And most people release the alcohol one. I did release the alcohol one because I wasn't ready. However, what I was not expecting was that after I left, I simply did not want to drink alcohol anymore. And I think the reason was because while I was there, like beyond the meditations that I was doing every single day with the nuns, I was also doing a lot of shadow work within myself in the cabin in the woods. Whenever, I was done with all daily activities, I was doing a lot of breath work. I was meditating alone myself as well, doing a lot of tapping, EFT tapping. And it was really intense because this place is in the middle of a forest. It's very, very, very silent. So never in my life had I had the opportunity to be so quiet and so alone with myself, with my thoughts, with my feelings. I had really intense dreams. It was a really intense process and a really beautiful one as well. And I released a lot of emotional stuff during that time. I think that that's the reason why that somehow impacted the way that I carry myself in the world, even though it only lasted like for 1 month, like the entire experience. So it was funny because after I released the alcohol, and drug preset, I'm not ready to give up, drinking yet. That's what I thought back then. But then I moved to Los Angeles. I started socializing very much because of the environment that I was in. I had plenty of opportunities to have alcohol, and in every single one of them, I said no because I didn't feel like it. So I was like, well, can I spend maybe a year without drinking anything? Is that a possibility? So it's been like 15 months now. Yeah, I think it's 15, 17 months. I need to do the math. I'll do the math and put it on the screen. But yeah, it's been interesting. Now, for full transparency, there were like 3 situations in which I had like half a glass of wine for celebration, like maybe a friend was celebrating or a family member was doing something that was very significant, and there was like this peer pressure for you to drink. So I did have a little bit of alcohol, but I don't even count because it was like minimum. So the 4 main benefits. This is a really interesting one. So let's get started with this. So the first benefit that I noticed, and this is a really important one, I think, is understanding which groups you belong to and which groups you do not belong to. and I'm going to explain myself with that. I, like, in the past, whatever social situation, from first dates to family gatherings to, I don't know, work, end of year celebration at work, no questions asked, I was always having something to drink, like always, always. And mind you, I'm not someone, I don't have social anxiety. I don't feel that I have to drink to socialize. So it was more like out of habit. And in the past year and a half, what I noticed was whenever I was feeling uncomfortable in a social situation, I wanted to grab something to drink. Not because I really wanted to drink, but because the alcohol would make that situation a little bit more pleasant. So, because I've been sober, I've been very much aware of how I feel in every single social interaction. And that really made me reflect that because I don't have social anxiety, if I am in a gathering, in a whatever, in a meeting, in a party, and I'm not feeling good, that's telling me two things, or one of the two, or maybe both of them. The first one is maybe those people are not really my people, because I also had plenty of opportunities to be in social situations in which I didn't have any desire to drink and didn't have the urge to grab something because I was really comfortable with those people. I didn't need something to numb my feelings. So that would be the first one. And the second one, if I'm starting to feel uncomfortable, it is a cue for me that it's time to leave. And I now reflecting back, I think that in the past I would stay in parties or whatever for much longer than it would be appropriate or that it was actually pleasant, because kind of the alcohol slows down your reactions and it made me linger in maybe a party that wasn't even that good anymore, or that people were very drunk and starting to misbehave or anything like that. So now I'm very super aware. That actually happened like last week. I was in this family gathering with people with relatives that I don't see very often, and I was feeling very uncomfortable. And that made me realize that in the future, maybe I just don't want to spend as much time with this particular part of my family because I just don't feel good with them anymore. So this has been like a great self-awareness and actually like a type of self-protection, because you are able to protect your energy better. And this actually connects really nicely to the second point, which is dating, especially first dates. When you're starting to meet someone, dating is better when you are sober, at least if you are looking for a serious commitment. And this is so funny because this is the opposite of what I did my entire life. Like, because like we know, like when we are meeting someone for the first time, maybe there is a little bit of anxiety, like you're assessing each other, you don't know if you're gonna like that person or not. So it's very easy to grab something to drink so you can feel a little bit more relaxed. But I've noticed now that I'm older and that I'm interested in having a long-term relationship, that it is more advantageous to be in my body, to feel my feelings, and to feel the other person as well. So, and this is so important, because if you're not fully present in your body, you're not going to be able to listen to your intuition, to feel how you feel, like how you truly feel about that person. And this is so important, especially in the early stages, because that's when, if there's any red flag, that's when you notice. That's when maybe if you are meeting someone who's maybe not good for you, you can be like quick in your response and leave that situation faster instead of lingering. So I think it allowed me to be more present, to be able to feel my feelings, listen to my intuition, be present to the other person as well, truly listen to what the other person has to say. And if for whatever reason that person is not the person, or you don't want to be in that date anymore, or you don't want to meet that person again, then I can safely move myself out of that situation, safely, with grace, and, just move on. I think in the past, maybe I would, just stay there longer, even if the date wasn't, that pleasant or that good. And now, like, because I have stronger boundaries, it's like, well, if it is something that can continue, then amazing. If it's not, then I can remove myself from that situation and also be fully present with myself and with the other person. Then there's the third one, which is, and this is also a beautiful one. I actually love all of them, which is better emotional health and mental stability during times of crisis. And guys, I think that this is a really huge one. And I'm telling this because coincidentally, over the past 1.5 year, my life has been changing so much. I moved back to my country. I am, building my own business. I'm building this YouTube channel. I have a lot of friends leaving, new friends coming. Like, honestly, there were points in 2024 last year in which my life felt like mad chaos because nothing was secure and safe anymore. Like, everything was changing. It was like this, a lot of changes happening at the same time. And I noticed over the past 1.5 year, and I've had intense moments of change in the past as well, but I noticed in the past year that I was able to be more centered, calmer. I would be able to, again, remove myself from situations that were no longer for me, see the opportunities that were opening up, and move along with those changes without much resistance. Being like fully present with myself, meditating also every day, which is something that, helps. And then I was just able, now that things have calmed down greatly, I can look back and be proud of myself because even though things in my life were changing very rapidly, a lot of those changes were not because I wanted them to happen. It was just life kind of imposing on me something. But I was able to handle those things really well. And I think this is such an important moment. I don't know if ever, maybe you are one of those people, I don't know, maybe you lost your job like 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and you feel that you were never able to recover, or you ended your relationship, I don't know, 7 years ago, and you felt that you were never the same. And granted, different people have different tolerance to change. And, some people adapt faster than others, and I know that. And sometimes, life does knock you really hard. I understand that it can be hard to, put your life together again. But now I understand. I am already 36 years old, so I notice in my own life that the things that I do in my day-to-day life, my habits, the way that I eat, the way that I sleep, the people that I hang out with, if I drink or if I not drink, the environment that I allow myself to be in, all of those things greatly impact how fast I recover from a challenge that life is presenting to me in a particular moment. So I believe that not drinking allowed me to recover faster from this really intense period of change that I was going through. So this is a really strong one. And then the fourth one and the final one is just having like greater clarity and manifesting things faster. And this is a really beautiful one. And when I think about it, I think about a time in my life when I was living in Argentina. There was a particular moment when I had this really awful job. And when I say awful, like, think about an extremely toxic environment, like really, really, really toxic. People were fighting all the time. Everybody was stressed out all the time. And that was a really difficult period of my life. I was living alone in a different country. It was hard. And I remember that my only relief at the end of the day was going to my apartment, opening a bottle of wine, having some really nice cheese, and watch Netflix for 2 hours and then go to bed. And don't get me wrong, I understand that if you are in a difficult situation in your life, it can be really tempting to just numb your feelings. However, You're not going to be able, like, if you have a major change to do in your life, it's not going to help if you're numbing yourself all the time, because you need to be able to feel what you're feeling and then take action to change whatever situation that you need to change. For me, it's not like my life was in complete shambles. It's not what was happening, but I had like this huge part of my life, which was my work, that I needed to change, that I needed to, commit to do something to remove myself from that situation. And I think I lasted like probably 5 months in that job. For a few months, I want to say like maybe 3 months, I was drinking every single night after going to my apartment. And then at some point, I decided that I had enough. I stopped drinking every day. I started taking care of my health, committed to searching for a new job every night after, arriving at home. And then I started having like more clarity about what I wanted from my life during the time that I was living abroad, where I wanted to go, where I wanted to live, and the steps that I could take to, have those experiences. And I did. It was actually really fast. I think like in a matter of a month and a half, 2 months, I was able to find an amazing job. Actually, a project that greatly changed my career for the better. It opened myself to amazing opportunities. I ended up 6 months later moving to an amazing part of the city, to this neighborhood that I really wanted to live. I moved to a beautiful apartment, but I could only do that once I reduced my alcohol. I was still drinking. I was still drinking on Saturdays with my friends. But during the week, I completely quit drinking. I started taking better care of myself. And that was allowed me to visualize my future and manifest the things that I wanted to manifest. And I think it's the same time that but now that I'm actually not drinking at all, I feel that this vision is even more clear, and I'm able to, you know, starting to put my plans into action much faster. So these are the four main benefits. And just to close out this video, I think that, I mean, sometimes I feel that we live in a phase of the world that things can be very polarizing. So maybe I guess if you're watching to this point, you are actually questioning if you still want to continue drinking like the way that you were drinking or that you used to drink. I don't know. But sometimes people fall into either these two categories. Either they think that alcohol has no, bad effect on them at all, and they're gonna continue doing it, and they're fine, and whatever. Maybe they drink every weekend, maybe they drink every day, but they think that that's fine. And then you have people who completely think that this is terrible, it's terrible for your health, or maybe they don't drink for religious reasons, and then you can kind of be like polarized. I do have to say that now I am more leaning towards not wanting to drink at all, but I think that there are several shades of I think there are several shades of gray in between these two poles. So, for instance, back to the time when I was living in Argentina and in that really terrible job, for me back then, my best self lived in a place in which I was not drinking every single day, but I was having something to drink on Saturdays when I was out with my friends. And at that time, that was appropriate, you know? Now it's more like, well, I'm older, I have greater plans for my life. I want to be sober all of the time, or the majority of the time, if that's possible. So I'm more, leaning towards this side of, this spectrum. But the question is, where are you right now? Maybe you're not ready to completely give up alcohol, but maybe if you drink every day, you might want to reduce to once a week or twice a month. Just be honest about where you think your best self live in this moment. For me, in the future, I'm gonna be honest, like, I'm not gonna say I will never drink ever again, because I've made those type of promises in the past and I was not able to keep it. But right now, I feel that I can not drink until the rest of my life and I'm gonna be fine. I don't know if that's what's going to happen or not. I'm feeling really good. I've been, continue to be social, going out with my family and friends. Many of the times they are drinking, I am not, and I am completely okay with that. And I think that I know that I prefer my life this way. So yeah, maybe I won't drink ever again. Let's see. But this has been my reflection. I hope you enjoyed it, and just share with me what has been your experience and what are some of the benefits that you notice yourself if you spend some time in your life without drinking. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.